Good morning. Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Greater Naples. My name is Tony Fisher. I'm grateful to welcome you here into the sanctuary, online and out on the pavilion this morning. It's great to see you all. I wish I could see you out there in the ether, but you are nonetheless part of this community, and we're grateful you're here with us this morning. We are dealing once again with a little bubble. I'd like to think it's a little bubble in the virus, and responding to that, we think, appropriately. Grateful that you're here, but also grateful for those who have made the decision not to be present in the sanctuary this morning, honoring those wishes as well. New guidelines were sent out this week. I hope you'll take a look at them if you haven't already, and hopefully those will only be in effect for a few weeks, if that, and we can see a decline in the local rates. But we'll see how it goes, and the committee will reconvene in about a week and a half to evaluate. This morning is, as you found out when you walked in the doors, is Stewardship Sunday. And for those of you who are here, I guess the pressure is on you especially, I don't know, but your cards are here. For those of you who are online, Steve will have some instructions for you as well. And once again, this is a wonderful time for our community to honor itself and pay respects for all that happens here. As always, I'm joined this morning by those folks who make this service possible, our ushers, the AV crew, Dan and John in the AV room, Abby and Sean providing wonderful music, Anna Riazzi, who just makes things happen around here anyway. And this morning, I'm very grateful to have our stewardship chair acting as our worship associate, and I'll turn it over to Steve Espinosa.
Thank you, Tony, and good morning. We're glad that you've joined us, whether you are here in the sanctuary or watching us on Facebook Live or out in the pavilion. We also welcome those who have found another time to watch a recorded service on Facebook or YouTube. My name is Steve Espinosa, and I serve as your worship associate this morning. If you are new to our congregation, we are especially grateful you found us. Our hope is to make you feel welcome and help you find ways to connect. Our mission statement reads that the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Greater Naples is a welcoming congregation, freely seeking intellectual and spiritual growth. We strive to create a larger community of peace, justice, and love. Here we learn and grow together and try to live our values out in the wider community. If you found us online for the first time, we hope you'll email our administrator at office@uunaples.org so that we can include you in our regular email news blasts and let you know about all the upcoming learning and fellowship opportunities here at UUCGN. Okay? So, now, let's settle ourselves into this time of worship with the morning's prelude.
In the first glimmers of the morning, the world begins to take shape. The brightening sky bathes the familiar landscape with a glow as it sleepily reveals itself. Blessed morning. Oh, to have another day to wake from whatever night thoughts dwell within, to rise and have the world unfold before us, where the possible unwinds into the actual, where dreams await their fulfilling, where we meet once again to live into that hope that gathers us together. Blessed morning. Please join me in the chalice lighting response. You'll see on your screen. May this flame stir our hearts and remind us of our mission to be truly welcoming, to grow in mind and spirit, and to widen the circle of peace, justice, and love. And let's join together in singing our opening hymn, Morning Has Come, or actually humming into your mask, if you would, please. Those of you at home, sing out so we can hear you, please. And Sean and I will sing this morning, Morning Has Come. Morning has come, arise and greet the day. Dance with joy and sing a song of gladness. The light of hope here shines upon each face. May it bring faith to guide our journey home. A new day dawns, our Lord to give His gift. Wonder fills this moment shared together. The light of peace here shines upon each face. May it bring faith to guide our journey home. Open our eyes to see that life abounds. Open hearts to welcome it among us. The light of love here shines upon each face. May it bring faith to guide our journey home. One of my favorites. So in your order of service this morning, you have a list of core values. It's certainly not exhaustive. You could probably come up with some that aren't there. In fact, I'm going to call out and ask you to share maybe things you don't see. But more importantly, I'd like some response from you this morning to give forth some of the values that you hold most dear, the things that are important to you. So as you look at those things and you sort of something resonates, or if you're just feeling very, confident about something, call it out. Let me hear those values that might be important to you. Authenticity, integrity, empathy, responsibility, involvement. Is that there, Paul? Great. It was right there, huh? Good. Sorry? Parody? Carrot. I still couldn't hear because it's the mask, but anyway. Truth. Sorry, Kathy? Compassion. Peace. Humor is good, too. Perry? Kindness. Optimism. Resilience. Community. All of those things sort of resolve themselves sometime into community. And any others? Justice. Courage. Yeah. Commitment. Any that aren't there that you've called out that I didn't recognize? Anything you're thinking of that isn't there? Charity. All right. Excellent. So in a community like this, all of these values come into play at one point or another, at all times. We hold them, and yet we don't think enough, I think, about each one and what it means and how we hold it and how important it is, both in defining us as a community and of ourselves. So much in our lives and so much in terms of what values we hold dear depends on our life experiences. So much depends on our current life situation. If we're struggling, then there are certain values that we hold dear, health and fitness and wellness, for instance. But the more we tie ourselves to other people, and in the end, we must tie ourselves to other people, the more we have to figure out what it means to be human in relationship. In relationship with self, with family, with community, close community, society, humankind, life, the planet, the universe. What values pull us towards those things? And then the more we do that, the more we have to wrestle with the question, what are the values we want? What do those values call us to do? What are they calling us to, how are they calling us to live in this world? That's sort of a comment of the discussion this morning, and I will invite Steve Espinosa up as our stewardship chair, but also as somebody reflecting on his own values this morning. And thank you, Steve, for being with us.
Great, thank you. Thank you for, just the opportunity to speak and share my thoughts. My reflection is titled Beloved Community. I remember the Sunday that my husband Ken and I walked through the doors of UUCGN. It was May 12th, 2013. We just moved from the Central Coast of California, and we're getting settled into our new place, which we acquired at the end of March. We moved here not knowing a single person. It was a new adventure, having spent our entire lives in California. We'd attended a UU congregation in San Luis Obispo, yet we were very new to Unitarianism. We checked out the website and actually drove here to see the campus before attending the first service. We kind of knew what to expect, but still had feelings of anticipation. What we found here that day was a very welcoming community. The hospitality of so many was a bit overwhelming. Talk about instant community and a comfortable atmosphere where we felt at home right away. And I've heard the same story from so many others since. We knew we had found a place to land. Starting a new life in a new state, a new city and neighborhood, this community would become a beloved one over the next 8 years. As I knew Reverend Tony would be speaking about values and the values that we bring to the table, I went down that list and pondered the values that were shared with us that first Sunday. At the time, UUCGN had an interim minister, and the congregation would be gearing up to form a search committee for a new minister. What a time to show up, right? And what a time to display those values we're talking about today. We're also creating a new mission statement, and we're working together in small groups. I was impressed by the individual convictions, the intelligence, openness, self-control, and compassion. The facilitator in our group gained my admiration and respect for the way she managed our group. Well, as we became more active over the past 8 years, I've observed some very courageous people from many diverse walks of life coming together to accomplish some pretty daunting tasks. And many of you are here in this room right now. The time, dedication, wisdom, and integrity, along with the joy of working through those tasks, makes me grateful to be among you. And there seems to be no hidden agendas or ulterior motives behind this tireless work. One can see that people are here working for the common good. If you were to just scroll through the monthly newsletter, you'd see evidence of how our values shape what happens here at UUCGN and the many dedicated people that make these things happen. As Unitarians, all the goings-on here in a given week seem pretty normal, right? But I always like to look at things from an outsider's perspective, and when I do that, it's pretty darned impressive. So many opportunities that help each of us to stretch our boundaries, to expand our vision, and connect with others on a more intimate level. The committee teams and outreach are too numerous to name with the time I have here, but it's pretty clear that our values show through these various ministries. Yes, I like to call them ministries, because they're all holy endeavors, in my mind, all provided to help us increase, enrich, and exercise our faith. That's what a religious community is all about anyway, isn't it? My reflection really is about why I show up. What is it here that keeps me coming back? And the answer always comes back to the people, the mission, and the potential that's here to do really, really good work. UUCGN has been a beacon here in the city of Naples. It's also a haven, a refuge from what's become a real polarized world out there, even in our own smaller neighborhoods. I'll be very honest and share that in 2017, early 2017, I went through what I'd call a spiritual crisis, a crisis of faith. Some would call it burnout. I was stretched between home and the work I was doing here. I walked away. I felt I'd let a lot of people down. But it was important to step away at that point. People reached out. And after about 18 months, we made our way back. I learned a lot in those months being away. I thought I'd be a little uneasy to step back in. Could I be trusted? But I found there was no judgment, and people showed an awful lot of grace. You see, this is a really good place to show up, to be present, and to be an active participant in helping to support and continue the good work being done here. On this Pledge Sunday, I'm inspired and hopeful for rebuilding what we could have lost along the way through the many months of the pandemic. Now we are facing this new Omicron variant. I've had to revise some of my reflection because of the very recent changes just in the last week. Here we are again with guidelines from last fall. But because of the dedication of many, we were able to keep the fires of UUCGN burning during the COVID-19 months when many of our own fires were beginning to die out. And I have no doubt that we'll continue to grow and move into the future with confidence, no matter what happens, because of our people. As a 2022-23 stewardship campaign spokesperson, I mentioned in my previous stewardship messages that using the hymn, "The Fire of Commitment," seemed so appropriate as a theme, except that we might need to rekindle or stoke those fires again as we move forward, even through murky waters. It's where stoking the fire of commitment came as a theme. I see the hymn as a rallying call. We'll have a chance to sing it at the end of the service. Here are some of the words. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, then our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way. When we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. I think those are pretty rousing lyrics. But to close, I'd just like you to have a look around. As we look around and see the faces of our beloved community, look out onto the grounds, that have been so lovingly cared for by our dedicated garden team, and see the many opportunities of our personal growth, we could say there's an investment opportunity here that guarantees some very strong returns. And not just for us, but the kind of returns that cause a rippling effect throughout the greater community. Again, I am very grateful to be in such great company. Thank you. And now for our centering hymn, number 123, Spirit of Life. You can continue to be seated.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. Fuente de amor, ven hacia mí, y al corazón cántale tu compasión. Sopla a volar, sube en la mar, hasta moldear la justicia de la vida. Arraigame, libérame, fuente de amor, ven a mí, ven a mí.
Joys and sorrows. I'd like to start this morning with real joy. This past Tuesday morning, one of our founding members, one of our charter members, someone who has signed that 46-year-old charter out in the front vestibule, visited us here and the garden crew. Kathy Magudis, longest-term member of this congregation, longest contributing member of this congregation, came by, had a picture taken with our president, Bill McCormick, and George Evans, who's here with us this morning. Kathy remembers working with George in the garden. She remembers working with Harleen Richardson and tidying up the grounds around the domes so many years ago but even before that, she remembers meeting in people's houses and meeting at the rented space in the depot. Her memory and her joy of being part of this community just sort of came through. Kathy has some autoimmune issues that sort of prohibit her from being here on Sunday mornings in large gatherings, but she was so enriched and enlivened by her visit. She loved the garden. She loved the new religious education butterfly garden that's out beyond the gazebo. She was just filled with joy, and she gracefully sent her love to you and her encouragement as members of this community to keep it going. So what a wonderful joy to share with you this morning. And I hope some of you have some joys as well, knowing that we all have those times in our lives that are both joyous and sad. So I will ask you to speak out a name, and those of you online as well and on the pavilion, to speak out a name in this space so that we can hear it and honor all those who we recognize as someone that needs our thoughts and our prayers this morning. So joys and sorrows. Thank you. And for those whose names have not been spoken, for those who have no one to speak their name, we light this candle of community. Let's join together in the spirit of meditation. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Spirit of life, we bring ourselves into this room, into this time together. Our joys and our sorrows, our triumphs and our failures. We come sometimes with trepidation, fragile in the face of life's challenges. We come sometimes with exuberance, buoyed with wonder and love. We come to be held in the embrace of a loving community. We come to be challenged to be our best selves. Life is ebb and flow, a striving for integrity and wholeness in the midst of a troubled and troubling world. At its best, this place, this home away from home, this house of hope, provides the nourishment we need to go back out those doors and be the heart and hands of compassion and justice. At its place, this is a place where the possible unwinds into the actual, where each of us, with all our faults, with all our talents, with all our fears, and with all our hopes, finds the courage and inspiration to be the change we want to see within ourselves and within the world. May it be so. May we make it so, now and always. Let's share some moments of silence.
This reading is adapted from The Purpose of This Community by Eric Walker Wickstrom. If you are who you were, and if the person next to you is who he or she was, if none of us has changed since the day we came in here, we have failed. The purpose of this community, or of any church, temple, zendo, or mosque, is to help its people grow. We do this through encounters with the unknown, in ourselves, in one another, in the other, whoever or whatever that might be for us, however hard that might be, because these encounters have many gifts to offer. We do this by considering the values that are of ultimate importance for ourselves, for our community, for our world, and finding ways to live those ideals every day. So let us go forth from here this morning, not who we were, but who we could be together as one.
We are not our own, earth forms us. Human leaves on nature's growing vine, fruit of many generations, seeds of life divine. We are not alone, earth names us, past and present peoples near and far, family and friends and strangers, show us who we are. Therefore let us make thanksgiving, and with justice willing and aware, give to earth and all things living liturgies of care.
Last week, a couple of people came up to me after the service and expressed that they were glad that I held hope out for our society because, in fact, they weren't too sure. For me, though, hope is not a passive thing that comes to us out of the blue and something you hold on to. Hope is active, not passive. Hope is central to who we are and what we do. Here we honor individual achievement, but trust the collective process more, knowing that it is the combination of our compassion and our creativity that is our only hope for tomorrow's world. The Reverend Tom Owen Toll writes, in this day of unpredictable change, of great human crises, of pervasive boredom and meaninglessness, despair often seems the last word. Folks decide by preference, default, to conduct, in Thoreau's words, lives of quiet desperation. Conversely, Unitarian Universalists choose to risk lives of hope, one day at a time, one struggle at a time, one possibility at a time. And the values we feel strongly about help us clarify some of those basic human questions that need to be answered in order to be able to risk hope. Who am I? Who are we? What is it we need from one another? What is it we want to be? What are we afraid of? To whom or what are we committed? What are our shared values asking of us? And I do believe that those of us who are able are called to be active in the world right now, to risk hope. As W.E.B. Du Bois suggested, anyone who has the audacity to be fundamentally committed to integrity, honesty, or decency is sooner or later going to have to come to terms with brute force and repression. And though we never thought we would have to fight that fight, the world has changed drastically. What a challenge the last 2 years have been. So far, we have lived through pandemic, racial unrest, and political upheavals, just to name sort of the top three. And we're not done. The ground beneath our feet is not as stable as it once seemed. We've had to be patient. We've had to be resilient. We have had to be creative in the ways we reach out to one another and in the ways we speak and act out against oppression and authoritarianism. Our trust in long-standing institutions has waned, and our concerns about what happens next has increased. We've come to know how important our freedom is and how much we've taken it for granted. We've been reminded of how much we value democracy and how much we've taken that for granted as well. We've come to see how unfair the world can be for those who have historically carried the social and economic burdens of our society. In our isolation and concern, we have come to understand how much we need one another. And still, being human, we are quite capable of limiting our definition of one another to those who think like we do. The ground beneath our feet is not as stable as it once seemed. Yet if we look closely enough, if we take the time to reflect, we will see that the things that keep us awake at night, our common fears for ourselves and for the next generation, those very anxieties reveal our deeply held hopes and values, the things we fear we might lose, that every person would be granted a modicum of respect and dignity, that justice, equity, and compassion will prevail in human relations, that truth will overcome falsehood, that we can see ourselves as interdependent beings engaged in a common struggle for goodness and decency, that all these values we honor will be carried forward into a future on a planet that is loved and well cared for. Here in this space of loving and caring, we honor the fears and anxieties that we all hold, that stem from a concern for our own security and the values we hold dear. And we honor as well the hopes and dreams that are at the foundation of those anxieties, knowing that they are intertwined. Here in this place of connection, we can know we are not alone, that there will be hands to hold and shoulders to cry on in life's hardest moments, and that we will have folks at our side and at our back when we challenge injustice in the world. Though Unitarian Universalists may believe different things when it comes to end-of-life issues, we all agree that what is most important is how we live this life, today, tomorrow, the next day. To the best of our knowledge, we are only given one go at this thing called life. And when our values are threatened, there's good reason for us to stop, to think, to risk hope, and take action, asking, what are we called to do? The good news is that here in this community of wholeness, we stand together. No one has to be alone in their concern. No one has to save the world single-handedly. We can consider together what choices and actions best align with the values that we hold dear. I can absolutely relate to Steve's story about stepping away from the congregation a few years ago. I've been there as a layperson. I've done that. You know how it is. You get invested in something, and when things don't work out the way you hoped, you get a little discouraged, you take a step backward. It's sort of natural. We can equate that to our time away from the congregation, perhaps, and having to step back, being forced to step away for a little while. And what I woke up to, and what I hope that you have woken up to after stepping back from congregational life for a brief time, was the value of community. How much congregational life nourishes me, challenges me over and over again to consider those ultimate questions, widening my vision, showing me possibilities for growth, and the satisfaction that comes in being involved in a community and in being involved in service to others. What I learned over time is that spiritual community is a life-giving spring that flows in direct proportion to my willingness individually and our willingness collectively to engage, to be open, to be ready and open to new perspectives, new vision, and to relish the experience of giving back. I've also learned that ultimately the most important questions we can ask are not I questions. They are we questions. They are character questions. And in this place, in this tradition, in this movement, allows us that space and encourages us to consider and discuss and act on those deep issues, those deep values that we hold dear. This congregation, this community of seekers and doers, of caring and compassion, is and will continue to be a special place. Where else are you encouraged to grow and deepen into the values that are meaningful to you? Not just the ones that come easily to mind, wrapped up in our own social framework, but those values that are also being centered by people of different experience and different culture. Where else are you both challenged and supported and working towards the best person you can be? Where else can you learn and grow, discovering new ideas and new sources of wisdom? Where else can you be held in times of both joy and sorrow? Where else can you connect fully with this world that is more mysterious and more wonderful than any of us could ever imagine? Where else can we get in touch with that something that is so much larger than ourselves? I submit to you that it is here in this workshop of our common endeavor, our common values, in this place, founded in relationship, in this place of hospitality and generosity, of compassion and courage and caring, in this place where we are called to create that larger world of peace, justice, and love. And for this place, and for you, I am grateful. May it be so for you as well.
As we take time to consider these words and today's message, let's also take time to show our gratitude for this community and all that it does each and every day. If you are joining us for the first time, we hope that you allow the plate to just pass you by. Your presence here or online is gift enough. The morning's offering for this day and this service will be gratefully received. If you are at home, the information you need to donate is on the screen.
We have been weighed down like sadness, like a stone. We have yearned, we have learned, we have sometimes felt so utterly alone. While we turn, we've been stricken by the wonder of it all, stricken dumb, stricken dumb. We have sometimes felt so faint we want to fall, overcome. But all in all, I'd say this year in flight together has been fun. What say we make one more circle around the sun? I'd say this year in flight together has been fun. What say we make one more circle around the sun? We have raised our fists in anger and we've tried to work it out, that we need each other we cannot deny. There's no doubt, so let us weave another dream in outer space while we're turning on this planet home that holds our human race. We're still learning. I'd say this year in flight together has been fun. What say we make one more circle around the sun? I'd say this year in flight together has been fun. What say we make one more circle around the sun?
What a cool song. I'm just amazed at what you guys come up with every Sunday. Oh, this darn mask. Kind of comical, isn't it, sometimes? These few moments are dedicated to any major announcements or information about upcoming all-congregational events. Everything you need to know about all the ongoing activities here at UUCGN you can find in our Sunday news, the weekly news email, or by going online to our website at uunaples.org. Today is, of course, the official beginning of our annual pledge drive. You should have received your pledge cards as you walked through the doors this morning, if you remember. Unless you've already submitted your pledge through the office, it would be so appreciated if you have those filled out and returned before leaving today. There'll be a basket out on the pavilion, and there'll be one out as you leave today outside the doors there. And for those of you who are not here, those of you watching online, you'll be getting an email from our office, from Anna, and you can reply that email by just submitting your pledge that way. We hope you can join us on Wednesday this week as our wonderful Wednesday programming presents Stories from You, the popular storytelling evening brought to us by Laura Bensman. This week our storytellers include Joanne Husky, Kevin DeGraw, Mark Meyer, and Ann Fisher. And as Tony mentioned earlier, the reopening committee, in response to the local spike in COVID Omicron cases, has sent out new guidelines that try to balance the spiritual needs of the community with appropriate safety precautions. We hope that you'll read the notices carefully, for this is a very fluid situation, and the hope is that this variant will follow the same pattern exhibited elsewhere and start to diminish as rapidly as it arrived. Now I'll turn it over to Tony for the last announcement.
This coming Thursday, you are encouraged to sign up for a workshop that will beginning this coming Thursday, Building Community Safety for All. This is a workshop about policing in our nation, and I think it's a really important conversation that we as a community need to have, as does the nation. I had the opportunity to participate in a rally for Nicolas Morales, the young man, farm worker who was shot in Immokalee a year ago last September. And one of the young women who spoke at that rally shared her feelings about growing up in a community where policing was not considered to be something that they felt safely about. She said in her text, she said, "Growing up, I dreaded seeing those blue and red flashing lights. I worried my parents wouldn't understand the officers because of language barriers, that the officers' patience would wear thin, and I wouldn't see my parents again due to the lack of adequate training." So many people in this nation feel very differently about policing than many of us do who have grown up in the dominant culture. This workshop is a conversation about that. It'll be held in 4 parts on 4 successive Thursday nights. Session 1 is about the history and roots of policing in our country. The second session will be about faith traditions and policing and our theological underpinnings of our understanding of policing, law enforcement. Third is about reimagining community safety, and the 4th session will be about imagining where we go from here. So I urge you to think about joining these sessions. They'll be online. There's a poster out in the vestibule about it. I'll be participating, especially in that second session about faith and traditions, but I'll be participating every week as well. It'll be offered by the Reverend Ann Dunlap, who's the faith leader for Showing Up for Racial Justice, so it's done in partnership with our Surge partners. Please consider participating in this important workshop. And now, Steve has sort of given us the foreshadowing that you're going to be hearing Fire Commitment. Sing along or hum along in your masks, please, and we'll see where it goes. Thank you. Let's rise. Whether we're singing or not, let's rise.
From the fight of days remembered burns a beacon bright and clear, guiding hands and hearts and spirits into faith and free from fear. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the stories of our living rings a long road brave and free, calling pilgrims still to witness to the life of liberty. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance and the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the dreams of youthful vision comes a new prophetic voice, which demands a deeper justice built by our courageous choice. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion need to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future
Together, may we be resilient and resourceful enough to say yes to the call to make it our life's work in 1,000 different ways, knowing we can do no other than bind ourselves more tightly together and throw ourselves into the holy work of showing up again and again, living our values out in public, and building that world of which we dream, but which we have not yet seen. Go in love. Go in peace. Have a wonderful day.